All right, Sean, some of the members of the media were working in overtime this week in an effort to characterize the RNC speeches as dark and divisive. Well, check out two different headlines from the New York Times this week. The first is about Trump's speech last night. It reads, Trump enters the general election distorting both Biden's record and his own. And the article states Mr. Trump misrepresented his own record on the coronavirus, part of a broader attempt to minimize his lapses in office, and then makes reference to Joe Biden as a moderate. Well, now I want to compare this to the headline they used for the DNC, which says Joe Biden pledges to overcome this season of darkness as the DNC ends. And then they wax poetically about how the Democrats' convention was not typical end of show, last fist pumping type of stuff. It was a plea for love and hope and filled with light. Well, joining us now is Derek Hunter, host of the Derek Hunter podcast, and Brian Darling, former counsel and senior communications director for Senator Rand Paul. Gentlemen, thanks for being here with us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, Derek, those headlines that Lindsay just read really show how this has become, the media versus Donald Trump. And every time I read something from Politico, the New York Times, it almost in its story says Donald Trump, who didn't do the following last night, which is something that they normally wouldn't do, right? So they write an article, but then they kind of put a comma that says, although there's no evidence to support it, end comma. Joe Biden made several claims during his convention that the Republicans and Trump didn't want people to vote. That's patently false. A bunch of other things on his record that were patently false. They said nothing and they let it go. The media's clearly picked sides on this in this election in a way that I've never seen before, Derek.
The little fact checker over at CNN whined last week at the end of the DNC that there was so little for him to do because he was too busy high-fiving himself and God knows what else he was doing with his hands. Yesterday, he gave a 3.5-minute monologue about every little thing. I expected him to say Donald Trump said it was 10:41 and it was 10:42. There's yet another lie. There is nothing they won't nitpick. The Democrats in the media have become everybody you ever broke up with in college because they drove you nuts. That's what they are. You're going to wear that shirt. I mean, that's essentially where we're headed by the end of this election. You're really going to wear those pants tonight? And the American people are sick of it, as you can tell by the ratings dive that these networks are taking.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, it really was fascinating to see how they portrayed one side versus another. You saw it last night. Your former boss was chased out of the event at the White House, had to have police security, and yet they still maintain that these are peaceful protests.
Yeah, if you defund the police, he probably would have gotten beaten up. And my former boss has been attacked by a neighbor. He was at the baseball practice with the Republicans when they were shot at. The left has been dehumanizing Republicans and yelling at them and saying, punch Republicans in the face as if it's okay. And that's been a big problem. And the fact that the left keeps dehumanizing Republicans and treating them as if they are not to be treated like normal human beings is what leads to this violence and all the evil things that we're seeing right now. And my boss has been the victim of quite a few attacks.
Yeah, definitely has. It was a sad scene to see that last night. I want to switch gears a little bit now that we have both conventions wrapped up. The next big thing is debates. When I think that Nancy Pelosi can't shock me anymore after she said that Republicans are enemies of the state last week, this week she's saying this. Listen.
Don't tell anybody I told you this, especially don't tell Joe Biden. I don't think that there should be any debates.
Oh, my goodness. Are we going to let him off the hook again? All right, I want quick answers from you because I want to get to some other stuff. But real quick, Brian, are we going to see Joe Biden on the debate stage, yes or no?
Yes, and it's because I think Joe Biden wants to debate, even though I don't think he's going to do very well.
All right, Derek, are we going to see him there?
He has to. I'm not sure we'll get all three, but we'll at least get one.
All right, I hope so. Sean, real quick.
Yeah, we're going to get all three. There's no question about it in my mind. He can't back out now. But I think the Democrats are regretting the fact that he said yes already. All right, we've done this all week. I want to do a little bit of a lightning round. Just give me your answer. I'm going to start with you, Lindsay. Give the RNC a grade and the DNC a grade. No commentary, a grade. RNC.
RNC, A.
DNC.
A B.
Derek Hunter.
A- for the RNC, a C+ for the DNC.
Okay. Brian.
I'll give the RNC an A, and I'll give the DNC an F-. I think they did a bad job.
Okay.
Sean, how about
I
you?
actually, yeah, my grade, I'm going to grade along the same way that you, although I probably would, knowing what I know now, I would have given the DNC a higher mark going into it because everyone was worried that going into a virtual world, they were first. But knowing what I know now, I would give them a B-. I would have given them a B last week, but now that I've seen how well the Republicans did, I don't give them any excuses. They had much longer to get ready for this thing. All right, next question. Of all the speakers, who was your favorite, Lindsay?
Oh, man, there's so many. It's hard
Come on.
to think of. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to say Herschel Walker. He blew it away on night one. I feel like we've brought him up almost every day this week. It was so powerful. It was so personal. It was amazing. He stole the night for me on night one, and I thought it was amazing.
Brian Darling, who was your favorite?
Of course, you think I'm going to say Rand Paul, but I'm going to say Nicholas Sandmann, that kid just getting out there and knocking it out of the park and being brave and standing up for himself. I love to see that.
Derek Hunter?
From a personal perspective, my friend Sean Parnell out of Pennsylvania, who's hopefully going to be elected to Congress soon. From an emotional standpoint, it was Ann Dorn, hands down.
It's interesting.
Sean?
I knew you were going to get to me.
I had to get to you.
You know, the funny thing is, I've said this every day. I don't think I had a favorite. I really don't. I think the default, because it's the president. Well, it's the president's convention, so I'm going to give it to him. I think it was a huge capstone the way he ended it last night. And I think, therefore, he gets credit for the overall convention, and it's all about the messaging towards him. But every single night, man, and last night it was even more so. A lot of the names that we didn't know. There were those everyday Americans. I think they stole the show in a way, and that's where the real contrast was. I do want to bring up one thing that's really interesting, though. Lindsay and I were at the White House last night. We showed a picture earlier of it. We had a great time. The press this morning was making a whole host of things about the fact that a lot of people weren't wearing masks. Although it's really interesting because a lot of those press people, like John Carl from ABC, who's mocked John Roberts from Fox once before for not wearing one, was seen all over not wearing one, and his picture went viral on Twitter. Derek, do you think there's a huge double standard in how these guys portray not just themselves, but the protests as well when it comes to mask wearing?
Do I think that? I wrote a book about it, Sean. I mean, if it weren't for double standards, they'd have no standards whatsoever. They of course hold them. I mean, right outside there were rioting mobs. On the mall today, there was the Al Sharpton rally for lack of social distancing, or whatever he's complaining about now. I can't read the return address on the check he's signing. But of course there's a double standard. Jim Acosta spent all last night clutching his pearls on CNN about the lack of social distancing and how close the chairs were to one another. And he didn't have to worry. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near him.
All right. Well, don't go away, Derek and Brian. We're going to have you right back to play the company quiz with us. And we hope that you'll join us as well. See if they can beat me when we return.